Hello everybody and welcome back to Tehillim Treasures, where every week in Mitzvah Shem we're going to learn 2 kapitlich of Tehillim, get an idea of what's going on, what was David HaMelech talking about, and how we can relate to it. We are sponsored by 2 exceptional organizations every week. The first is Chazaq. Chazaq is an organization that has provided incredible Torah content, especially these last few years when we needed it, to be able to connect to the Rabbeinu Shalom, to better appreciate the Torah, to better appreciate our privilege to be the Am HaNivchar, the chosen nation. Additionally, Chazaq's main work is to help children that are in public schools go to yeshivas, and you can contact them if you know of a child that is in need of a yeshiva at PSTY public school to yeshiva at chazaq.org. Our second sponsor is chickensforshabbos.com, where every single week there are those families of Melamdim, Rebbeim's children, Rebbeim's wives, who do not have enough to put food on the table, for agunis, for women who are nebuch alone, for grushes, for women who are divorced and they don't have where to turn, and they need food and they need clothing, they need people to help them with utilities and so much more. Please be generous in your donation to chickensforshabbos.com. This week we will be doing in Mitzvah Shem the 31st and the 32nd kapitlich of Tehillim. In Kapitel Lamed Aleph, we begin Lamnatseach Mizmor LeDavid B'cho Hashem Chosisi. In you, Hashem, I trust, and those words are repeated throughout Tehillim, the trust that David HaMelech has in the Rabbeinu Shalom. Imagine being chased and hounded by your enemies time and time again. You know, we Baruch Hashem don't live in an era where we have the enemies chasing us in terms of being unsettled because we're at war. At least hopefully you're not. But we all have demons. We all have internal enemies that cause us anxiety and cause us to feel a pit in our stomach sometimes. And that is also something that we run away from, and something that causes us to feel unsettled and causes us to feel worried and unhappy. But just like David HaMelech running away from Shaul time and time again, or running away from Avshalom, or whoever it is that David HaMelech was running away from, and he composed the kapitel, we always have to ask ourselves, how does this apply to us? And I believe very, very easily we can connect it to our lives where we have enemies, people that hound us, different types of events that trigger inside of us feelings that we don't like, and feelings that scare us, and feelings that worry us. Such Kapitel Lamed Aleph, is somewhere where we can turn. And one pasuk encapsulates the idea of running into Hashem's arms. We say, Biyodcha afkid ruchi, in your hands I entrusted my spirit. Podisa oisi Hashem ke'alemes, you redeemed me, O Hashem, God of truth. As long as my spirit is in your hands, then we feel safe. We feel like we're in the lap of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We're being held by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There's a very sad story, but it's a beautiful story. A story of a young Danish boy. And this boy, young Yosef Dov Hochtach, he was a boy from Amsterdam, from Holland, and he peered out of his sleeping quarters. He walks to the area where there was a middle-aged man. It's in the concentration camps, and the middle-aged man's name was Shlomo Musbacher. He was 42 years old, and he was living a normal life. He was an accountant. He had a beautiful family. And all of a sudden, everything turned upside down. He was dragged out of his home by the Nazis, and we know the story from there on in. And the German guards turned towards him, and they beat him mercilessly, while he thought his friends, the neighbors, they just turned away because they weren't interested in dealing with his pain. Shlomo's village was completely emptied, and he ended up in the camps, and now he was in a camp called Blechhammer. And it was impossible to relate the horrors of what had happened to him. But Shlomo was able to set apart one part of his day, and everyone else was sleeping, and he would spend time where he would take a few precious moments, and even though it is impossible to fathom, but he was able to put on his tefillin. And there was a newcomer from Denmark, this Yosef Doiv Hochtach, and he saw it, he didn't know what it was, and he put on the tefillin for the first time. Yosef Doiv was only a name that he took on later in life, but that became who he was. And Shlomo was very, very inspired by this boy who was becoming a Baal Tshuva in the camps. And even though there was 25 years that separated the two of them, they felt a real kinship, a tremendous bond. Shlomo would go to sleep at night, and he taught Yosef Doiv the words of Shema. He taught him one pasuk: B'yodcha afkid ruchi, podisa oisi Hashem kelemes. He said, Yosef Doiv, we're entrusting our neshamas to the Rabbeinu Shalom, and Hashem will give it back to us tomorrow morning. Every day he put it on for 3 weeks, until after 3 weeks, unfortunately, they took Shlomo and they moved him away. They brought him to Buchenwald, and they were separated into different parts of the camp, and now he was no longer seeing him as he had seen him every single day. 2 months passed, and Shlomo and Yosef Doiv looked nothing like they had months earlier. Buchenwald was much different. They were starving literally to death. And one day Shlomo is walking, and he hears like a moaning and a groaning sound. And he hears somebody calling to him, Shlomo. He doesn't know where it's coming from. And finally he saw a pile of bodies. And he saw 20 meters from where he was, there was a pile. And on the bottom of the pile, barely alive, is Yosef Doiv Hochtach. And Shlomo wanted to pull him out, but he couldn't pull him out from the rest of the bodies. And Yosef Doiv said, don't move me. But Shlomo tried to pull him, and Yosef Doiv begged him, just please leave me. Shlomo says, what can I do for you? And he held on to him, and he said, say with me those words one more time. Say that pasuk. I forgot it. And he told him, B'yodcha afkid ruchi. In your hands I place my spirit. Podisa oisi Hashem kelemes. And with those words, he closed his eyes and he left this world. But he left this world being held in the hands of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There's no question that a boy like that, who just a few months earlier had learned the first time what Yiddishkeit was all about, a boy like that finds himself in the arms of HaKadosh Baruch Hu forever. No matter how it feels, no matter if we feel like we're being hounded or chased, put yourself in the arms, in the hands of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and you are safe forever. And now we move on to Kapitel Lamed Beis, Gematria Leiv. And David HaMelech speaks not only about bitachon, but he speaks over here about simcha and the importance of being happy and joyous. Kindness will surround you. Simchu v'Hashem v'gilu tzadikim v'arninu kol Yisrael. Be glad in Hashem and rejoice, O righteous. Cry out in joy, all upright of heart. When you're in the hands of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you find yourself in a happy place. And when a person is happy and you have bitachon, you're everything you need. You have everything you need. You're in the hands of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And there's a beautiful story of Rabbi Yechiel Spero. The Heilige Rabbi Yechiel Spero had a daughter, and the daughter was sick. She wasn't well, and her condition deteriorated, and it got worse and worse until it seemed like she was going to leave this world. And Rosh Hashanah came, and Rabbi Yechiel blew shofar that Rosh Hashanah. And Yom Kippur came, and Rabbi Yechiel fasted Yom Kippur. But every other waking moment, he was sitting by his daughter's side. And then it was Sukkot. Sukkot is Man Simchaseinu, it's a time of joy. And in the middle of a time of joy, how would he be able to be in such a matziv together with his daughter? The sadness was overwhelming, but he fought through until it came time for Shmini Atzeres. Sukkot was Man Simchaseinu, but Shmini Atzeres is the joy of joys. And Rabbi Yechiel was sitting by his daughter's side, and her condition became worse and worse and worse. And it looked like the end was near. And Rabbi Yechiel cried out to Hashem, and he said, Heilige Bashefer, holy master of the world, you asked your Meirul, he spoke about himself as a little child. You asked your Meirul to go blow shofar, I blew shofar. You asked him to fast on Yom Kippur, and he fasted on Yom Kippur. You asked him to be besimcha on Sukkot, said to sit in the Sukkah, and I did that as well. It was not easy. But now we are holding by the last moments. And my daughter, it appears, is going to leave this world. And we know, the same way a person blesses for the good, he blesses on the bad. Zogdurashi, he has to be mekabelet b'simcha, with joy. Rabbeinu Shalom, I have a problem. On the one hand, I have the joy of Sukkot, it's man simchaseinu. But on the other hand, I have the joy and the simcha of being mekabel your gzardin ba'ava, of accepting your decree with love and with simcha. Ein ma'arvin simcha b'simcha. I cannot join the simcha of the yontif with the simcha of your harsh gzardin, Rabbeinu Shalom. I can't meld those two lahalach. I'm not allowed to. Help me, Rabbeinu Shalom. Ein ma'arvin simcha b'simcha. And the Rabbeinu Shalom was meitiv with him. She showed a little bit of an improvement, and Rabbi Yechiel went to dance hakafis like he had never danced before. And the Hasidim danced with him, and when he came back home, there was a little more of an improvement and a little more. The Rabbeinu Shalom never brought that simcha to the world. His daughter had a complete refuah shalema. When a person has trust in Hashem, he has an opportunity to be joyous. And the joy that we have doesn't have to be smiles and giggles. The joy is an inner joy, a joy of acceptance, a joy of knowing that HaKadosh Baruch Hu only does things that are good for us. And if we can accept that, and if we can live b'simcha, then Rabbeinu Shalom will Amir Hashem bring us only the simcha that we truly understand. Until next time, sei gesund and be well.